Today's video is an honest review about the Canon EF 85mm aperture of 1.2 luxury lens by Canon. I'll be talking about all the different things I know about this lens, what it's good for, what it's not good for, a ton of other things, so stick around if you want to find out all the amazing things about this lens. Number one, what is the weight of this lens? The weight of this lens is 34.2 ounces. Definitely a little heavier of a lens. To be honest, in my opinion, not too heavy to actually shoot with. I do think that it can make your wrist and arm tired sometimes, depending on the frequency that you actually shoot with this lens. It's often a lens that's more portrait. You shoot with it more portrait. So you're not constantly shooting with this lens, which means that you don't have to hold it up all day long, especially on wedding days. It's more of a specialized, more of creative artsy lens than a practical lens. So it's 34.2 ounce weight. In my opinion, has never been a problem. I've held some lenses that are really heavy and definitely would make my arm sore after a little while of using it. But this lens isn't really that much. It's not too heavy, in my opinion, at all. Number two is let's talk about the distortion of this lens. So in my opinion, this lens really does not cause any distortion because it is a portrait lens, and portrait lenses tend to not cause as much distortion at all. And you really do have to be further back for this lens to actually focus on this subject. So getting close up to them and trying to focus on them would probably not work very well. And so I don't think that you'd really struggle with a whole lot of distortion for this lens. Just to provide you guys with a little more info on this lens, I looked up what the focusing distance for this particular lens is, and focusing distance is how far back you need to be to actually get focus on the subject that you're trying to photograph. So the focusing distance for this lens is 37.4 inches, which is a little bit over 3 feet, because 3 feet would be 36 inches. So it's basically you have to be 3 feet back and an inch and a half to focus on them. So in my opinion, pretty similar to the 50mm lens, which I made a video about up here. It's pretty similar. It's about 3 feet, a little over 3 feet back to catch focus on the subject. So again, not much distortion for this lens at all. I would venture to say that there really isn't distortion for this lens at all for portraits. Number three is depth of field. And this lens, in my opinion, is one of the best lenses for depth of field. With its large, wide open aperture of 1.2, it's amazing. Basically, your subject can be in focus, but you can have a beautiful, amazing bokeh in the background, blurry background. And that's why I love this lens so much for portraits, which romantic portraits, which I'll talk about more a little later in this video. Definitely, in my opinion, this is the best lens I know of for depth of field, that it's a prime lens. Now, there is the Canon EF, I believe, 135mm lens. I'm pretty sure that's a prime lens. I've not used that lens before, so if someone has, let me know in the comments and tell me how the depth of field and how that one works. I've never used that one before, and I'm actually kind of curious. Maybe someday I'll make a video on that one. If I do, then I'll put it up there. So yeah, so amazing depth of field with this lens. I love it. It's so good. Also, just for a fun fact, this particular lens has, let's see, the filter size is, if I can find it here, 72. So 72mm is the filter size for this lens. So if you're looking for a filter to put on your lens to protect it, I highly recommend doing. I think that's a really good idea. I'll link some filters down below in the description that you could use for your lenses, or for this one too in particular. So put the cover back on that one. Very nice lens. Has autofocus, manual focus. Although I use autofocus all the time. I don't know anyone who uses manual focus really. So that's really great about that. Number four is shooting speed. How fast does this lens work for shooting speed when you need to? So you can always up the shutter speed, to get it to capture moving subjects faster. However, I do think that this lens is not the best for fast-moving subject. I do think it's risky to try to capture fast-moving subjects, especially on a wedding day. I would be very concerned about photographing the bride walking down the aisle with the 85mm unless you know this thing so well and you know your settings so well that you are sure you can accurately capture in focus. Because I've just seen too many times where someone's tried, or I've tried, and it just didn't quite work the way I wanted it to work, type of thing. And I still got photos, but it just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, type of thing. So I definitely wouldn't use this lens to capture fast moving subjects in moments where you can't recapture that moment, like at all. Don't do that. Like even like there's one wedding where like the couple came into the reception area, like, you know, their grand entrance, and I put my flash on the wrong camera body, which had the 85mm on it, and I didn't realize till like after the grand entrance. Thankfully, I still got some photos at work, but it just wasn't like as good as normal, and I was like, what? How did I do that? Like I normally always put it on the camera body with the 50, and it was so funny. But thankfully, like, in the couple, they loved their final gallery. Like, they couldn't tell. It was fine, but like I can tell. They had no idea, so it's fine. Number 5 is fast-moving subjects. So I would not recommend capturing fast-moving subjects with this lens. It's definitely more of a portrait, like artsy, creative lens, not like a super practical, fast-moving lens. Don't do it. Don't risk it. I wouldn't suggest it. If you want someone like on a wedding date or family session, like if you want to try to capture it, maybe have them do the action in slow motion so you can capture it and it looks like an action shot, but it'll be better, I think, in that way. Number 6 is versatility of this lens. To be honest, this lens, in my opinion, is not super versatile. It's really only great for portraits on wedding days, like romantic portraits. You could use it for family formals, but it's gonna be hard to get back far enough. You can use this lens on wedding days to capture like nice details at the reception because it has an aperture of 1.2 and does work well in low light. It can be a really nice way to get like, you know, like artsy pictures of the cake and details like inside the reception area. You could use it for wedding day details like flat lay stuff, but in my opinion, it's gonna be too close up. I would definitely use more the 50mm, which the video is linked up here, 50mm. I would use 50mm to capture like flat lay stuff on wedding days. In my opinion, that's the best lens for like, you know, wide flat lay photos. I do love using this 85 lens for groom portraits and like groom detail portraits. So things like the boutonniere, like him wearing the boutonniere, cufflinks, like buttoning the cufflinks, like maybe adjusting like his bow tie or tie or whatever, and just groom portraits in general because I love the bokeh that gets behind him. Just I love that blurry background, and I love it more than the 50mm. Let's put it that way. I do. I also love bridal portraits with the 85mm. So good. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is what I'm supposed to talk about later. It's fine. So back to versatility. Yeah, so really like this won't work for wide shots. It won't. Don't try. It won't work. It'll basically only work for nice, artsy, creative looking portraits. You know, it's going to be really hard to use during the reception unless it can be good for like zooming in on things. So like during the ceremony, you could use it to like, you know, get a closer up shot on what's happening up front because it's an 85 versus a 50. That's actually one good use for it, is that it can zoom in further. And so like for reception, like for speeches, you can like get further, and for family photos, like for family sessions, you can get like really nice photos of families with this lens. I actually really love this lens for family sessions. It's so pretty to use. What is the cost of this lens? Always the question that we want to know because it is the thing that keeps us from getting a lens or not getting a lens, and that's just how the world works, right? Money, oh my goodness, so funny. That rhymed. That was actually good. Okay, anyways, you can get this lens used at khcamera.com. You can get it at Arama. You can get it at eBay. You can find it on eBay used. That's cool, right? You can buy it used on Amazon or Canon, like all those places. So on Adorama, it's currently listed for $12.39, so like $1,239. And then on eBay, it is currently listed for $1,700. Wow. Yeah, I guess that happens sometimes. It is used in a few different places too. Let's see, what's the Amazon price for this lens is $1,700. So you can tell that this lens is an amazing lens because of the price. Like, it is not a cheap lens. It is a really good, amazing lens. And I'm just gonna say, this is why wedding photographers have to charge what they charge, because if they don't, they're not gonna make a single penny from shooting a wedding. So this lens is amazing, and because it's amazing, it costs a lot of money. Anything of high quality, guys, is going to cost money. You know, it's like a house costs a lot of money because it has a lot of value in it. So a lens has a lot of value in it, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So those are just a few places that you could consider buying this lens if you are looking to buy the lens. And I'll talk about more buying options and renting options later in this video, so stay tuned for that. Everyone wants to know where to rent this lens from because it is so amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. My name is Jennifer Cook, and if you like this content and want to see more, go ahead and like the video as it helps the channel and it helps me to continue making more helpful educational videos for you to watch and learn from. And subscribe to this channel, and you can always click the bell button if you want to be notified about future videos we have coming out that are similar in content to what you are seeing today. So if you're liking this video, keep on watching for more helpful information. I'll soon be talking about the best use for this 85mm lens, and I love it. And so yeah, get right back into watching the video. Number 8. is overall look of portraits. Okay, this is my time to shine with this lens because romantic portraits and like golden hour portraits are amazing. So I'm gonna pop some portraits up that are my favorite from shooting with this lens, so they can just pop it on up as I'm talking about it. Overall look of portraits is absolutely amazing, so high end, so stunning, like when the sunlight's coming through and it's gorgeous and it's golden hour. So many amazing images from this lens and using this. If you know how to work with light really well, like if you understand natural light and know how to work with it in this lens, you're gonna create some stunning images and just capturing beautiful images for your couple. And I just know that when my couple and I are like scrolling through the final gallery looking at their images, they just love it. Like it's so fun to see their reaction to all these pretty portraits of them. Like it's so fun. Number 9 is focal length. Let's talk about the pros and cons of the focal length. Pro is that it's great for portraits. That's like the best pro. The con is that it's not gonna work for wide shot and anything really fast moving subjects. Another pro of the focal length is that you can like, you know, get more zoomy in images like during a ceremony or during speeches at the reception, things like that. You'll just wanna make sure that your flash is on the correct camera body. If you're, you know, photographing speeches with 85mm instead of the 50, I tend to photograph speeches with 50mm, not the 85. So my flash is normally on my 50mm camera body, not the 85. So if you're gonna like use 85, you might switch the flash, but sometimes it just takes too much time. So you decide what you wanna do to get the images you wanna get. Oh, and since I just started talking about my flash, my video about my flashes are up there if you want to see what I use. Okay, we have gotten to reason 10, which is one of my favorite bullet points for today. So what is the best use for this lens, my wonderful beloved 85? So definitely romantic portraits and family sessions, in my opinion, are the best use for this lens. On wedding days, romantic portraits, best use to capture glowy, epic photos for them. And then on family sessions, like I really think that it really like helps the family to pop and then gives a really nice blurry background, and the moms are going to love these images. They also love the images that I take, just like portraits of their kids. Like they see them and they're just so happy. And so those are definitely, in my opinion, the best use for this lens. Reason number 11 is, what is this lens good for? So I've really talked a lot about this, I feel like already, so I'm just gonna do a quick little overview. So this lens is best for portraits, and I'm just gonna keep saying that because that is what this lens was designed to do, to make epic, glowy, amazing portraits. Number 12 is, what is this lens not good for? So yeah, this lens is not good for a fast-moving subject, and anytime when something's going fast and you need to capture really fast, it's not gonna be good. And it's also not good to capture anything in which you need a wide-angle lens. It's just not gonna work. And like if you're in a small space, an 85 is not gonna work. You might be able to capture like, you know, cute like detailed shots of things, artsy like photos of the bride, you know, and her earrings, things like that. You can get that. It's not gonna work for wide stuff, and it's not gonna work for anything fast moving. Number 13 is my favorite moment to shoot this lens with. So hands down, it is golden hour portraits. And I say golden hour portraits because golden hour portraits are actually different than romantic portraits. Golden hour portraits are when like the sun's glowy, everything's perfect, and you know, we get like glow on the bride's hair and everything like that. And it's just beautiful and stunning, and I love it. So that is my favorite moment on a wedding day to shoot with this lens. And that can also be applied to like family sessions and senior sessions. Like anything during golden hour with this lens is my absolute favorite moment to capture. All right, we are on to reason number 14, which is buying options versus renting options for this lens. So early in this video, we talked about some of the buying options. So again, you can get it through Amazon, Canon, Adorama, KH camera, eBay. You could buy it from another photographer you use. There's lots of different buying options. I do want to mention that Amazon does have an interest-free payment plan that you can, use to buy the lens. I think it's like a 12 to 18 month payment plan that you can buy the lens, use it, and slowly make payments to pay it off over time. And that could be a really good way how you invest in this. That way you don't have to rent it, because in a way it's like you're paying the same for like renting versus like buying it and paying it for over time. So that could be an option that you could consider doing. The other option is renting, and I recommend using lens rentals to rent this lens, try it out, and see if you want to purchase it. And you can rent it through lens rentals. I have a discount code in the description of this video that you can use towards your first order. You can get $25 off your first order when you use lens rentals and try out this lens. So definitely go use that. That's there to help you. And that's what I use to rent all my lenses, lens rentals. Like when I need an extra lens for something, I always use lens rentals. I've probably been using them for about like 3 years. If you want to see my video on lens rentals, it is up there. The last reason, but not least, in fact, it's very important, what are my overall thoughts on the Canon EF 85mm aperture 1.2 luxury lens by Canon? My overall thoughts is that I love this lens, and this is it my first favorite or my second favorite? That is so hard. I don't know. That's like one of those questions you can't answer, because if you answer it, my 50 millimeter is gonna have its feelings hurt. But I really like the 85, but the 50 millimeter is so versatile. That's so hard. I honestly think I love the 50 millimeter and the 85 millimeter equally, but for different reasons. And I think that's like my honest truth. My overall thoughts on it is that it's an amazing lens for portraits, and it's definitely one of my must-have lenses on wedding days, and definitely just like an amazing lens that will change the look of your images once you start using it. I just love it and would recommend it to anyone looking for an amazing, stunning, prime portrait lens. If you are interested in learning about one of the best macro lens for macro ring photography on wedding days, then you can see all about the Canon EF 100mm aperture of 2.8 luxury lens by Canon in the next video. It'll be linked right here. And in this video, I talk about why I love this lens, how it's amazing for detail photos and my ring shots, and just everything that I love about this lens and how it has improved my wedding galleries. Then I also talk about how it can also be a good portrait lens too if you use it right. So if you're interested in finding a really good macro photography lens, then go check out that video next.